The village of the Djinn, a true story from Egypt. In the heart of Egypt, where the desert meets the fertile lands of the Nile, lies a village that few dare to speak of. Hidden from maps and shrouded in whispers, Zarqa is known by a more chilling name, the village of the Djinn. For decades, its story has been told in hushed voices, passed down as warnings rather than folklore. The people who live there are prisoners of an invisible force, and those who enter often do not leave the same. This is the story of Ahmed, a journalist who did not believe in legends. But skepticism has no place in Zarqa. What he found there would haunt him forever. The journey to the cursed land. Ahmed had always been drawn to the unknown, chasing after stories that others feared. When he first heard about Zarqa, a village abandoned by time, ruled by unseen entities, he knew he had to see it for himself. His journey began at dusk. The road was barely more than a dirt path, winding through barren land. The further he drove, the more unnatural everything seemed. The air grew heavier, the silence almost unbearable. No birds, no stray animals, just an eerie stillness that sent a chill down his spine. As he neared the village, an old man waved him down. "You must turn back," the man warned, his eyes wide with fear. "They do not welcome outsiders." Ahmed brushed off the warning. He had heard such tales before, superstitions, old wives' stories. But Zarqa was different. He just didn't know it yet. The village of shadows. Zarqa was a ghost town. Houses stood in ruin, their walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulsate in the dim light. The streets were empty, save for the few villagers who watched him from behind cracked doors, their faces hollow, their eyes filled with something he couldn't quite name, fear, maybe? Or resignation. He was led to Sheikh Hassan, the village elder, a man as ancient as the village itself. His frail hands trembled as he spoke. "You have made a mistake coming here." Ahmed smiled. "I'm just here to learn the truth." The old man's face darkened. "The truth does not need to be found. It finds you." The Djinn of Zarqa. The Sheikh's story was unlike anything Ahmed had heard. Long ago, this land belonged to them, the Djinn. The villagers had unknowingly built their homes over sacred ground, angering the ancient beings that dwelled beneath. The retribution had been merciless. Families disappeared overnight. Some were found wandering the desert, their minds shattered. Others were never found at all. The Djinn were not mere whispers in the dark. They were here, unseen but always watching. Ahmed scoffed. It was just folklore, a way to keep people afraid. Or so he thought. Until the night came. The night of terror. The villagers had warned him to leave before sundown. But Ahmed was determined. He set up his camera in an abandoned home, its walls covered in those strange symbols. The night was suffocatingly silent. Until the whispers started. At first, they were soft, like a breath against his ear. Then, they grew louder. "You should not be here." Ahmed spun around, but the room was empty. Then, the temperature dropped. His breath came out in white puffs. The candle beside him flickered wildly before going out entirely. Then, a knock at the door. Slow. Deliberate. He held his breath. Another knock. This time, it came from inside the room. His camera flickered, its screen filled with static. And then, a shadow moved. Not a trick of the light, not his imagination. Something moved across the room, shifting, crawling, twisting into something human but not quite. Glowing red eyes locked onto his. Ahmed tried to run. The door wouldn't budge. The walls seemed to close in. A deep, guttural voice filled the air. "You wanted the truth. Now you are part of it." Something cold gripped his wrist. And then, everything went dark. The escape. Ahmed woke up at dawn, lying on the cold ground outside the village. His camera was gone. His belongings scattered. But the worst part? He had no memory of leaving the house. Shaken, he ran to his car, speeding away without looking back. As he reached the main road, he glanced in the rearview mirror. The village was fading into the morning mist, but standing at the edge of the road was a figure, watching him. It had no face. But its eyes still burned red. The aftermath. Ahmed never spoke of Zarqa again. His article was never published. He quit journalism, moved to a different city, and refused to answer any questions about what had happened. But those who have visited him say he is not the same man. Some nights, they hear him whispering to himself. Other times, they catch him staring at empty corners, as if something is there, something only he can see. To this day, Zarqa remains a forbidden place. No one dares enter, and those who do, never leave unchanged. The villagers say the Djinn are still there, waiting. Watching. Choosing their next visitor. So, if you ever find yourself in Egypt, and someone warns you about a village lost in time, listen to them. Some places are not meant to be found. And some truths are better left buried. This story is based on real accounts of those who have encountered the unknown. Whether you believe in Djinn or not, Zarqa's legend lives on, a chilling reminder that some mysteries should never be unraveled.